Ciara.
Ciara.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're probably on Facebook at least, because it worked before. Instagram is a little slow, but at least we have the stream on Facebook. It should
Yeah,
also
let me
go on
check.
YouTube. So you want to check your site. While you're checking, I give another introduction to you. So you have been teaching breathwork for over 10 years now.
Yes.
And as I remembered you, like how you got stuck in my brain was that the unconscious death urge,
Mm-hmm.
which is like very intriguing word too, because not a lot of us realize that we have that. We just feel that we are self-sabotaging and having
Yeah.
self-destructive behaviors, but we don't know why is it there, and we don't know how to heal it.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is something that Lenador specifically came up with and taught in his trainings. And the unconscious death urge is all those thoughts, all the programming we have that we are going to die. And like you just said, it's all those sabotaging behaviors that we create in our lives that that make us feel awful. And it isn't something that you can just immediately go, right, I've done it, I'm through my unconscious death urge, because there's so many aspects to it to look at. And we look at this when we're having rebirthing sessions. So part of a session is having a good chat with your rebirther, first of all, and we look at our life circumstances. Now, something that you will have done in your work with Sandra Ray is the personal lie. And the personal lie contributes to that too, because the personal lie isn't actually doing us any good.
So
And
people
we
who
need,
don't know
and
what,
you've seen how that can change as well.
yeah.
So, you might have got a personal life first of all, but the more work you do, the more sessions you have, you go deeper. And it's the same thing with the unconscious death urge, that you can go deeper.
So people
Mm.
who don't know what this personal lie is,
Mm.
can you open this topic a
Yeah,
little?
it's the most negative thought that you've created about yourself. So, I mean, I've had a few over the years, and one of my important ones was I'm alone. And interestingly, my middle name is Alona.
Oh
So
wow.
I even set it up in my name. And so so what happens with the personal lie is that we have this thought about ourselves which isn't helpful. It's generally looked as negative, and we then, because we live in a projective world, we then project it into the life circumstances that we have, and we set up situations like, let's say, boyfriends who would drop me and I'd feel alone, or we're too busy all the time and I'd feel alone. And so that's how the personal lie operates. And when people do the exercise, it really is profound. I don't know, how was it for you when you first did it and discovered what your personal lie was and how it's acting out in your life?
Yeah, it was interesting because I was doing this deep connected breathing, and Marcus Ray came to me asking me the guiding questions to get to my personal lie. And once I said it out loud, that
Mm.
I I forgive myself, probably was
Yeah.
it? Then I felt my entire body going like,
Yeah.
and it was powerful to experience that. Just saying these 4 sentences, like
Yeah.
a couple of words, had such a profound effect on my nervous system and connective tissue and muscle, and the way I felt in my bones.
And this is why it's really important to make a distinguish between conscious connected breathing and functional breathing exercises. So you might be given functional breathing exercises like the box breath or, other breathe to help you with a condition like you've got asthma or something like that. Whereas rebirthing, we're going below that. We're going to the root cause of why you're creating asthma in your life. Yeah. And that happens because we're predominantly breathing with the nose in the Leonard Orr style of rebirthing. And that is connected in the Indian tradition of or the Nadi system, which prana goes through your body. The Ida, Shushumna, Pingala, they are attached to seeing things from a higher perspective. So when you're in your session, like you might suddenly get a realization, oh my gosh, that's why I chose my personal lie. Or you might get a, oh my gosh, I've been creating these situations. Bang, bang, bang. Now I get it. And so you're taking yourself out of being a victim and everything's being done to you to being someone that goes, I guess now that's why I've set up this situation for me to resolve. And doesn't it feel better?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's empowering.
It's so empowering, and it's the better way to go. I mean, functional breathing exercises are wonderful. They really are, and they help people. But it's like a Band-Aid because you haven't got to the root of what's really going on. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
And rebirthing isn't for everybody, and that's absolutely fine. But if you are someone that's like, I've had enough of this, I want to get to the bottom of it, rebirthing is great.
So can you explain why this circular conscious breathing is able to do this
Okay, I'll give
rewiring
you
work?
one example. So it's very different to pranayama, because pranayama, you might be holding your breath or you're controlling it, whereas rebirthing uses prana, but it's the opposite. It's about liberating from controlling your breath and holding your breath. So that's why you're creating this circle. And it's hard to do because the very first breath that we took, and most people have had their umbilical cord cut when they're born. What's the first thing you do when you have a difficult situation? You go, and you hold your breath. So that's what happens when the umbilical cord is cut. The baby goes because the breath isn't naturally coming into it. And it's like, what's going on? And it's got to figure out how to breathe. Now, when the umbilical cord isn't cut, it starts to dry slowly, and then less oxygen and carbon dioxide is being transferred. And then it naturally works out mouth breathing or nose breathing, but it's usually mouth breathing because their noses tend to be bunged up with mucus, and so they're not naturally. The first breath is usually with the mouth.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is it fair to say that since most of us who are grown-ups right now, most
Yep.
of our umbilical cord was just cut
Yep.
off, that it created a pattern of how we react in stressful situations?
Exactly, an imprint even. So yeah, the pattern was formed, and that's like, yeah. And through when you have conscious connected breathwork sessions, and many of the well-established training institutes, like transformational breath, holotropic breathwork, liberation breathing, they know about this. And it is the aim within the first few sessions to actually liberate your breathing mechanism. And when you feel safe enough and you're with a facilitator that isn't going to freak out Rebirthers are used to this happening. You can re-experience your first breath with trust and know that you'll get through it. You see, unfortunately, when the baby does that, it's struggling to breathe. And, people can often go blue because they're re-experiencing it. However, with, an experienced facilitator who says, you're going to get through this, just breathe, just take the breath in, it all then gets dissipated. So that's like an initial trauma that happens with breathing. And if more people experienced what it's like to liberate their breath, they might not need to, there are many medical conditions that might just drop away.
Do you have an example, like a story of a person who,
Oh, I
like
can't
what?
think of any right now. Yeah, but I'll keep thinking while we're talking
Okay,
and see if something comes up. Yeah.
yeah. So far, I have experienced this Sandra Marcus Ray
Mhm.
biodynamic breathwork, trauma release, and this, um, yeah, like the
Yeah.
like Wim Hof. And how is, you mentioned Lenador?
Yeah.
So tell me about Lenador.
Okay, so Leonard Orr was the person that brought conscious connected breathing back into the world, because obviously in many times before it's been present, but he brought it in the early 1970s. And he was in a bathtub and he just noticed himself doing this connected breath. And he was really curious about it. So he kept it up and saw where it went. And birth memories came up for him because he was in warm water, which simulated being in the womb and the temperature, because we're in a water environment in the sac in the womb. And so he had a house in San Francisco that was a bit of a commune and other people were living there. And they bought a hot tub, put it in the basement and started playing with it to see what this was all about. And so that's why it's called rebirthing, because in those early days, doing the connected breath in warm water, they were having birth experiences. But they realized this was too much. Birth is a major trauma, even if it's what we call a normal birth. Yeah, that going from the liquid, I call it womb service. So you're getting 24-hour womb service from your mother in the womb. And so you're going from that liquid to air. So you've got that difference, and then you've got a temperature difference because it's often a lot colder, particularly in hospitals once a baby's been born. And you no longer got that, that long-term connection through the umbilical cord when it's cut. So you're receiving food, oxygen, and everything you need. And then you come out into this world and you're like, what's this about?
Yeah.
And we know babies have feelings, so they really experience everything that's happening to them. Yeah. And so what they decided was it was too much, so they took people out of the hot tub and experimented with doing what we call dry rebirthing, which is now called rebirthing breathwork. And yeah, go on.
So you're coming to Estonia in May for 5 days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is going to happen in this retreat?
Okay, so we've got the first 2 days understanding what we call breath mastery, and it's the rebirthing technique. It's how when you've got a client or when you're experiencing it, you understand more about what's happening. So the biggest thing we come up against in our first few sessions is resistance. And it can be physical resistance like tetany. Did you ever experience that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be falling asleep. or it could be emotional resistances, like, I don't want to feel this. If I start crying, I will never stop. And that is a common one for people, is that if they think they're going to cry, they're just going to keep crying, but you do stop. Because the beautiful thing with the breath is if you just keep doing the circular breath, you move through it. Yeah. So we learn about all the different types of resistances, how we move through them, and the energy cycle. So with every rebirthing session, and this is only taught through Leonard Orr's school, because what happened is when they first experimented in San Francisco, everyone was really excited and they all went off and did their own. So Sandra went away and did her own her own work. And she has been absolutely phenomenal because she was a nurse. She wrote many books on birth and the effect birth trauma has on relationships. However, Leonard kept perfecting the method. And also he visited Mahavatar Babaji in India. And Babaji said to him, you breathe with the nose and eat with the mouth. And that's really important. So we do nose breathing, but we also do mouth breathing. And we explain in the workshop what you use, when to use it, each type. And so the energy cycle is basically shows you how a client moves through a session. And what we want is a completed energy cycle. And you'll have to come to find out more about that.
Yeah, and cold water.
And cold water. So that's to set us up. If you haven't studied with the Leonard Orr technique, you won't have got all the breath mastery understanding. So it's really important that you understand the basic concepts. Now, cold water rebirthing, it's looking at your greatest fears and your death urge, which we explained earlier. Because going into cold water is such a shock to the system, as you know, with the Wim Hof technique. Now, Wim Hof, he does breathing exercises before you go into the water, which includes holding the breath. Whereas with rebirthing, it's a lot more gentle. And we're doing the connected breath, and then we're walking into the water very slowly, very gently, adjusting as we go. And then as you get deeper in the water, it's up to you. You will only go as far as you can tolerate at that point of time. And there's no bullying or pushing you to go for it, keep doing it, because that's not how you get through it. The connected breath keeps you going, and it's trusting that you can do it. And you're fully supported when you're going through with whatever comes up for you.
Yeah, in life also, right?
Yeah. So I have to mention, I did a lot of cold water rebirthing just 2 years ago because I was diagnosed with cancer. And so that is the death urge, coming up for you. It's the death urge. And so I said, right, I'm going to go full on and I'm going to do every day. I did icy cold water, right? Because I've been doing it for quite some time. So I got in really cold, 8 degrees, which is really, really cold. When you get in water as cold as that, it stings. And there's this urgency to get out and this urgency to stop. But if you do the connected breathing and you can learn to trust the process, it just goes, and then you're breathing it. And as you're breathing it, there's this like surge of life force energy coming, like in a dry rebirthing session when you've broken through resistance and you're feeling. But this is even more powerful because I was like, I've got this will to live and I am going to get through this no matter what. And I did. You see, I didn't, and this isn't everybody's journey, and everybody go if anyone is listening that has cancer, you know, if you need medical treatment, you do it. You do what you need to do. But I chose not to.
And you're
And
healed now?
pardon?
And you're healed now?
Yeah. So it's a cyst. It's not cancer now.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a miracle story, no?
Yeah. Yeah. And do you know what? The wonderful thing with this work is miracles happen.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I mean, you've probably had profound changes that you're like, oh man, I wish I did this earlier, you know, because once you've released whatever emotional pain, physical pain, underlying cause, negative thoughts, whatever's going on that's causing you to be, you know, even a physical or relationship problems, even when you make that realization and you free yourself, it's amazing. It really is.
What I mostly see in the weekly breath sessions that I do in groups is that
Yeah.
somebody is uncomfortable with discomfort.
Yes.
They have so many escape mechanisms.
Yeah, we do. And
Automatically go through
so
that.
this is why, and it's not to be critical. Please understand, everybody, this isn't being critical. Leonard used to say that group breathwork is low quality.
Mm.
Because if you've got someone with you who's only focused on you, who's holding that space, who's facilitating, who's, you know, help guiding you, you get through that uncomfortable feeling, all those feelings that you didn't want to feel, that you've pushed down. You're safe to explore what's going on and keep breathing, and it goes.
Yeah. I think there's good balance between like private session and a group
Mm,
session, so you learn how to hold space for yourself,
yes,
and then also
because
surrender.
group, I find in group work, and I often put this down to astrology as well, that certain people actually need to hear someone else doing something, like they might start crying or they might scream or make a noise, and they're like, oh, I can do that. Yeah, so there, I see that there is an absolute value to group work because a group energy comes along. I mean, if you've ever done plant medicine, you know that there's an energy in the room that goes through everyone, and it's very similar in group breath work.
Yeah,
However, you don't get a completed energy cycle if you know, you haven't got that individual working with someone.
right.
Very experienced people. So what Leonard would also say is have 10 individual sessions at least before you go on to do any group work, so that you can get all those core issues dealt with.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely agree, and sometimes it's not, you know, possible, affordable for
Yeah.
everybody to go through that. So
Yeah.
that's why this having different ways of joining is useful.
Exactly. And then once a person realizes it's what they really want, the money comes.
Yeah.
But when you've got so much resistance, it's going to block it. Because
So
the ego's a slippery little sucker, and it will prevent you from breaking loose because it wants control.
yeah.
They'll find up all kinds of excuses for you.
So is there a connection between the subconscious death urge and abundance blockage?
Yes, you could say that, but with abundance blockages, there are many factors that come into play, and so the unconscious death urge, it is more about yeah, Oh, okay. Yeah, you could say that, because if you're putting yourself into poverty and your health is affected, that's the unconscious death urge.
It, yeah.
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 But it's got abundance has a lot to do with your programming from the ages of 0 to 6. And you know, what was your mother's situation? What was your father's situation? You know, are you from a family of money? Because if you're brought up with abundance, that's how you think, that's how you feel. But if you're not, you'll keep recreating it, not being abundant in your life, until you can break through it.
Yeah. So is this unconscious death urge like a secret desire to return back to the
source? Exactly. So we come from source, okay, and then we're born and we're like, what the fuck have I done? Why did I come here? Oh my goodness. And so we've got this urge to go back to source. And this is the irony, is that what we actually have to learn is heaven is on earth. Heaven isn't after we die. It's here. It's right now. And we have to look at all the illusions we've created in our life that stops us from experiencing the wonder and the joy of living and being. And then if anything difficult comes up for us, it comes up, we realize it, we know what's going on, and we walk through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still get triggered. And the thing is, as long as we're breathing, we've got stuff to work on. And I will always say to people, you know, always be careful of teachers that put themselves on a pedestal as if they've never, you know, they don't have problems. Everybody, as long as we're breathing, stuff comes up from us, no matter how advanced you are on your journey.
Yeah. And there's generational stuff too, like in
Yeah,
our
exactly. So with everybody that's been born since 1980, planned cesareans are standard.
What is
And
this
so
planned
planned cesareans, you know, the cesarean birth where the mother's cut open and the baby. So it's planned. It's like to make it convenient for the mother or for the doctors. And these babies are not getting a natural birth. And what happens in this instance is that you're being taken out before you were ready. And so in life, whenever anyone pushes you want people to push you, because that's what you're used to, into doing things. But if they do, you then go, how dare you? You know, I want to do that on my own. And so a lot of and children from cesarean births give their power away to authority a lot easier. Mm-hmm. And so through rebirthing, we discover this and we work through birth trauma in sessions and empower a person. And in some cases, what we'll do is simulate for the client what it's like to go through the birth canal. Yeah. So they get that feeling of coming out.
And you do it also in warm water,
Yes.
always. Okay.
But it can happen if someone's ready. It can happen in a dry rebirthing session.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else we could cover in this that you feel? How much? Just want to be respectful for your time, because I know you have
got another 20 minutes.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. So you have been doing this kind of retreats for how long?
So I've totally changed the way I do trainings, and I'm now offering cold water rebirthing as a separate 2-day workshop. So we'd normally do it in a 3-week intensive training, and it'd be the last week that we look at warm water and cold water rebirthing. So this is the first time I will be doing this as a 2-day workshop.
So normally you do 3 weeks in a spot.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
and it's in the 3rd week. Or if we're, because what I do is I like mothers to come to trainings, so we might do a training over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like doing 1 or 2 days a month. We do lectures, and for the full 3 week, the last part of the training, we'll be looking at cold water and warm water rebirthing.
Mm-hmm. And who do you see is benefiting the most from this work?
Wow, it can benefit anyone. Even if you think you haven't got any problems, which a lot of people do,
Mm-hmm.
it can, but it isn't for everybody as well.
Who is it not for?
If so, and please don't interpret this wrong incorrectly. Some people with high neurodivergence who are very, very sensitive may find it difficult. So I would recommend anyone who's highly neurodivergent to work with other breathwork techniques first of all, because you don't want to go bang into deeper traumas when you're having difficulty with sensory overload. So that's one area that I if you're also a very sensitive person and really don't want to go into feeling uncomfortable feelings in your body, go slow.
Mm-hmm.
Do some other techniques first.
Baby.
Even seeing a psychotherapist so you get in touch with your feelings, because that's what psychotherapy is really good for. If you can't feel things, talking about it helps you then come to a place where then you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion. Maybe we move to Facebook, straight to Facebook. Because
Okay.
right now I cannot see this live on Facebook, on my Facebook wall.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right.
So let's do that.
Okay.
Or should we do Instagram? What do you think?
Well, how do I join you on Facebook?
On Facebook, I start live and then you press request join.
And that's on your wall?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's do that.
Let's do that. Okay, thank you.